GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.
GUVI, a vernacular edutech brand, skilling everyone everywhere.
Hi, Imtiaz. Pleasure to meet you. Welcome to Kannada Plus.
Thank you.
When it comes to love, making love stories, you and Sanjay Bhansali, I feel are the last torchbearers, if I may use the word, of a certain. Of course, the scale is different, the aesthetic is different, but in terms of a love that is uh, very passionate, rooted, the junoon, it's timeless. There's a kind of timelessness about the love. I feel that you guys are the last to kind of tell stories about that kind of love. Would you agree with that, first of all?
I am feeling very happy that you compared me with a great filmmaker, and I just let it be left at that. I have watched Sanjay Leela Bansali's films, and I agree with you on his count. As far as I'm concerned, it's difficult for me to be objective. But if what you say be true, then it's good, and it's good fortune.
Right. No, but what I mean is, even though yours is in a modern setting as opposed to his films, your characters always behave like there's a timelessness about them. That they're not really. They may be wearing modern clothes. They may be wearing, like, having modern day issues, but the way they approach, or rather the way you approach love in your writing and how you construct your characters, I think there's always something very, very pure and how do I put it? Very timeless. I keep going back to that word timeless. I think maybe it's also because you keep crossing timelines. I don't know. There's this feeling of timelessness.
It could be, while you were saying this, it could be because of what I'm talking about.
Right.
That particular moment in somebody's life, or that particular type of expression or feeling.
Right.
I'm reminded of this little nugget from Romeo and Juliet, where Juliet says to Romeo that just because I have given myself to you so quickly, don't think I don't have value. Now, this is a timeless emotion. Somebody who is unable to resist the charm of a man,
Right.
unable to make him do the fielding, as they say, before giving in, feels that, oh, I'm giving myself so easily, but I can't help it.
Yeah.
It's like when you come to that point, it becomes timeless.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of Romeo and Juliet, there's that whole coda at the end of Love Ajkal 2, the balcony scene.
Yeah.
You have it there, which was like, I thought it was fantastic. I think I'm one of the 5 people on earth who like that film a lot.
Okay.
So, yeah. So now India has the largest youth population in the world today, and I hear that about 60% or 50% of Indians today are under the age of 20, 25 or under. Do you think they've become a little cynical about the way they look at love, and has that therefore changed the way you have learned to look at love over the course of your career?
Well, to begin with, I don't think they are cynical at all.
Okay.
I think that they are seeking, and they are seeking the same thing as anybody was at their age. But we tend to confuse the externalities, Again, the package is different, but what is inside is the same
It's the
thing.
same.
It is the same yearning, it is the same thing, which is, for instance, 50 years back, it would be a big deal to actually sleep with a woman. And then that could be considered the finale of a love relationship. But right now, that's not a big deal. There is something else. In a way, you can say that it is becoming purer.
Right.
Because you're not going for the externalities anymore. All of those are available to you. You can get married. Even after that, something can happen. Sometimes with the same woman that you're getting married to. But there is something else that you're seeking. What it is might be elusive forever. Therefore, love stories will keep getting made. We might not even comprehend it, but the seeking has continued.
Right.
If you see social media also, okay, there's so much about that. There's so much about seeking. I feel that it's much more than in my time.
Why do you say what it is might be elusive? Wouldn't a person know what they're looking for?
They do think that they do
Okay.
know what they are looking for. It's like when you start and on any journey, you feel that you know the destination.
Right.
But on the way, your mind can change, or you might make more revelations. You might have more understanding of the journey, and therefore your pedestal changes.
Yeah.
Your destination changes. You might reach the destination and realize, oh, I don't want to be here, or I have to go further.
Right.
I feel that the guy who climbed Mount Everest for the first time in history might have seen a small hill and thought this is the tallest mountain, but it's only after reaching that summit he would have thought, oh, there is another one bigger than this. Then he goes there. So I think it's like that. And this is the elusive quality
Right.
of so-called love.
Right. Is that also why in the West, the concept of people changing over time and therefore growing out of love with somebody is also a little more accepted than it is in India, where you tend to look at finding this one person to settle down with.
Yeah.
And of course, that's also changing a little bit, but that has predominantly been like to find that one person there. Whereas there it's like, okay, for now, I'm happy with this person, but maybe 10 years later, you change as a person, the other person changes, and then you realize that maybe this is not working out. We don't see that reflected as much in our films.
Okay, but let me take you in history. Okay, let me take you thousands of years back,
Right.
let's say, in India. And read the legends, read the Mahabharata and Ramayana and the various love legends we have, the various histories we have. Actually, anywhere in the world, you will see that there's a pattern which does not belong to the prevalent conception about love and marriage.
Right.
For instance, it could be that a certain character in history or in popular mythology has had relationships, more than one,
Right.
but any of his relationships have not been looked down upon. In fact, examples have been given about them.
Right.
Right? And of course there is a Sri Ram, but there are also other characters. Similarly, in Homer,
Right.
it's not as though Helen of Troy had only one lover. The point is, what is the depth to which a certain relationship reached?
Right.
And what is it that love is? Like, is it particularly towards one person? And if so, then why is it that one person falls passionately in love with three people and somebody might have 7 relationships but all dispassionately?
Right.
Is it also some sort of a relationship with the self to fall in love, so to speak?
Yeah.
So what I feel is that these are thoughts that one might have. But at the end of it, if somebody says, oh, now I know what love is, he'll be enlightened.
Right.
He'll be Gautam Buddha.
Right. And also, I think those kinds of love are a little difficult to put across in a 2.5 hour movie, I guess. If you're looking at it, I don't know.
If you can understand it, or if you can comprehend it, or if you have enough like strength to grapple with it, then you will have the ability of representing it.
Right, because I'm
in
also
film.
also thinking that so far almost all of our love stories are between one person, like two people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
very. I mean, if there is a third angle, it's a love triangle, but it's always like the equation always 1:1 kind of a thing.
But then, I don't know, there could be a movie, for instance, where somebody is so much in love with his work, and that like, this is the love story going on in every Indian household, right?
Yeah.
Where the husband or the wife is saying that, yeah, you love your work much more than me.
Yeah.
You attend a meeting where, we had actually decided to go for a date.
Right.
So that's also a love.
Yeah.
And it could be something else. Sometimes you are in a certain intimate moment of your life, but when you step out, you realize, oh, Sachin is playing so well, you don't want to miss that.
Yeah.
That's also love.
What are your favorite romantic films?
Well, I can tell you that one of my favorite romantic novels is Wuthering Heights.
Oh, Gothic fiction. Yeah.
By Emily Bronte. And I think what is most romantic to you depends on the age at which you either read or saw. So movies like Shyam Benegal's Junoon will always be a very, very romantic experience for me. Similarly, and this is completely age related that Qayamat se Qayamat Tak in the Indian perspective will be that movie. And Mani Ratnam's Gitanjali would be.
Yeah, I heard about that. I was like, okay, that probably is going to be a separate conversation.
Yeah,
but
you
I was
must have
always-
that conversation. Yeah,
With you, I'm saying, I'm like, I'm a little curious because even his
Yes.
admirers don't rate that film quite high.
Yeah,
You know, yeah.
Again, it's an age thing, and
Yeah.
let's talk about that.
Yeah.
And so these ones, but also A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway, which like I remember when I finished reading it for the first time, I couldn't even believe that somebody would write it in those words.
Right.
You know, and how perceptive one would be to write it in those words.
Right.
And the same thing goes for Emily Bronte. And we were talking about Romeo and Juliet some time back. That play,
Yeah.
the way it's been written, and you experience
Yeah.
what they are experiencing.
Yeah. Actually, I want to recommend a movie to you in case you haven't seen it. It's a Portuguese film called Letters from War. And it's about a guy who goes to fight for war and writes letters to his wife. And the language in it is full of
Oh, I would love to.
aching and longing and like what he's experiencing at war versus what he's missing at home. And
Oh,
it's,
that's amazing.
if you like Wuthering Heights, this is
Oh yeah, I'd love
unmissable.
it.
Yeah.
And also, I like this thing. There's been a lot of literature in the Second World War about love for the country versus
Yeah.
love for a
Yeah.
woman or
Yeah.
love for the mother.
Right.
Brecht has written. So many people have written about it. Faiz Ahmad Faiz has written "Is ishq ya us ishq ve nadim hai magar dil." You know. So there's a lot about that, and I feel that films have embraced it.
Right.
But also in the very popular genre, this is something to go forward into.
Yeah. Is Amar Singh Chamkila also, in a way, a kind of a love story?
Oh yes, it is.
Okay.
It is because firstly, it has the conventional love story between Amarjyot and Chamkila, and the strange, interesting, and a very like unique circumstance in which they get together. You'll hopefully like it when you see it in the film, and you'll also know what I mean. The second thing is love for music.
Yeah.
The fact is that the love for music, and not only music in the case of Chamkila, but also live performance
Yeah.
of that music in an akhada in front of people. The love for it was such that he could not give up.
Right.
He just couldn't give it up. He was not a brave man, but he just couldn't give it up. And
Right.
that led to his doom.
No, Imtiaz, for those of us not familiar with Chamkila's work, can you give an example of a song that shows why his work was considered so daring and taboo, or why it was frowned upon by society, even though it was embraced by certain other sections?
Yes, I can give you many examples.
Yeah, but like, yeah.
Okay, so this is, for instance, I'll say that वो तकता रहा
Uh-huh.
मैं शिखर दोपहरी नौंदी सी. Right. Firstly, all the Chamkila songs are in Punjabi,
Right.
sung by Diljit. What she is saying, and in this case Amarjyot sings this, that he kept watching while I was bathing in the hot afternoon. As the song progresses, you will realize that who's watching is his brother-in-law.
Oh,
It is as basic as that. These are the things that people in villages say, talk, joke about. And these are the topics on which these extremely vulgar songs that are sung in weddings all over India, like the ones especially that women sing.
yeah.
So these are the topics that Chamkila also wrote about. They're very relatable. But he also had a kala with which he wrote it. For instance, he says a beautiful line which I think is magnificent. He says, "Rana da kuch nahi katta, chhadya da jaka honda." In the way that a woman doesn't lose anything if a man gets a glimpse. You know, it's such a line that, you know, young people have been thinking about this. That, "Tera kya kam ho jayega yaar?" You know, that kind of thing. It's so naughty.
Yeah.
Which is what was so sticky about his lyrics. And all of the songs that he was popular for before he started writing the other kind of song, but were like this.
Okay.
So obviously you can frown upon them, but there is something which is very ticklish. There is something that thousands and thousands of people were doing anything. I mean, you couldn't have a wedding if Chamkila was not going to come and sing.
Right.
He was that popular.
So is that love for music and the love that Pariniti's character and Diljit's character have for each other, are these the two elements that drew you to the movie?
The most important thing that drew me to the movie is the ironical situation of Punjab
Okay.
and of Chamkila's life, and there was a parallel between them,
Okay.
where there is the coexistence of tragedy and exuberance at the same time.
The 80s.
All of Punjab through the history is like this,
Right.
and 80s it was the case in point because Chamkila was making music at that time.
Right. Now, Imtiaz, all your films have had recorded music, and why was it so important for you, for this film, for Diljit Dosanjh and Pariniti Chopra to sing certain parts of their songs live during the shoot? Because music is an illusion in the movies. It's like you're not actually saying Saif and Deepika are singing in Love Aajkal. It's like you think that they're singing, but you know that illusion is already there in people's minds.
Right.
कि like ये लोग गा नहीं रहे, कोई playback singer गा रहा है, but in the movie when I see this, it looks like Saif is singing and Deepika is singing.
Correct.
वो तो we've accepted that.
Right.
So why was this a special thing for you to break?
Because I was making for the first time a film on the life of a musician,
Right.
like it in a biopic way. Of course, Rockstar was also on the life of a musician, but this is not fictional.
Right.
This is a real story of somebody who has actually recorded songs which exist. Now, obviously, they contribute to the reason of making the film. So, how would you make the film without using that material? And of course, that material was so explosive that it had the important influence in Chamkila's life and his death. So, you had to represent that. Since he was a musician, if I have to tell his story truthfully, then because it was such a big part of his life that I would have to represent that music. And then for a musician in his life, when he's not performing, he's still rehearsing. He talks and then he starts singing again. You know, from one to the other, it switches very automatically. And then I have to also show the process of how those songs were made, and then how they were performed, and then what the reaction was. And so it's not like I have the possibility of having an X number of songs and then be that song, and once it begins, it has to end.
Right.
You know, you have to wait for 3 minutes. ऐसा नहीं है. So he's doing an akhada. Because then while he was doing the akhada, if there was a crowd, then he would stop singing and talk. You know, so to present the reality of what it was to be in Chamkila, you had to have live music and the music that Chamkila had sung and composed, and that's why we wanted to take a singer for it, and that's why Diljit was the only choice that we could manage. You know, he was the only one, and so there's a beauty. You know, it's like if I'm making the life of a cricketer, everything is not a match. I'm sure that if I were making the biopic of Sachin Tendulkar, there would be situations where he's just like hitting something while talking.
Right.
You know. So to have that beauty, to have that
Lovely.
reality.
Yeah. To kind of have that, probably that improvisational quality as
that
well.
structure.
Yeah.
And also because I wanted to have the songs of Chamkila in Punjabi.
Okay.
And I knew that the audience will not understand Punjabi. Let me also say that while I make the film on Chamkila, I am not assuming that anybody knows about Amar Singh Chamkila.
Right.
But the story is such that I thought that I really have to tell this story, because within his story is a story I want to tell.
Right. But then every biopic is that. Like, I don't have to know Lawrence of Arabia in order to watch a movie about. I can learn about Lawrence of Arabia by watching the movie.
You're right.
Yeah. So this interview is turning out to be quite something, because now I'm drinking tea from a cup that's called Mazi, and I think Imtiaz Ali fans will know where this is coming from. So now, Imtiaz, I want you to, I know this is a very broad and unstructured question, but I want you to take me through the process of, take one song, any song that you've composed with Rahman, which could be from any film, and take me, it could be from Chamkila, anything else, but how did that song happen? I mean, like, structurally. Let's begin with your idea for the song and how that idea became a song and kind of became that, whichever film.
Okay, let's talk about Chamkila, since we are talking about that. Let's talk about a song that has already been released, so we know what we are talking about. This is the song of all the women singing Naram Kalja. So, a very interesting and a slightly later thought in my process of discovering and understanding Chamkila was that Chamkila was eminently popular among women. Now, that defied logic because he was vulgar. You could say that maybe he's objectifying women, and women are supposed to be, oh, holier than thou. So why are they getting enticed? There are people who give me accounts like when they went in their youth in the 80s to so and so girls' hostel, they were surprised to hear only Chamkila playing. Or so and so bus was going from one to the other place in Punjab, and there was the hockey team of the time traveling, and they told the driver, play Chamkila. So why were women, and he's also the Kotha Dau Kalakar. So then I thought, there's enough to see what the bloody connection is between the two. And then I discovered that, and then, so it was a bit late that I said, why, there's a Chamkila in women also. I said, they also enjoy ribaldry, and they also, and then I thought about this whole angle that पुराने शादी के गीतों में तो होती है vulgarity और औरतें ही ज़्यादा गाती हैं. What's the connection? So then I got this thing, and then I said, let's have a song on this. And so we were also, now Rahman sir had said that one thing we'll do different in this album is that we can have this whole style of, what is that, musical theatre. It's like when people sing to the audience. So in this case, the camera. So we had already identified one song like that, and we thought that, oh, so now the women are saying why we like Chamkila. And this is a great opportunity of seeing how his popularity spreads in Punjab among women. It became, so then we started to record this song. Rahman sir composed something, and then Irshad wrote something, and then he straight away said, let's get all the Punjabi speaking or Punjabi type singers, women, and late at night they were brought in, and we started just recording. Okay. And then he was playing on the keyboard, and then he was doing strange things. We had a lot of fun, but the structure of the song was completely elusive. So we thought we'll have a little bit of a thing. When we go to shoot, we'll have some women dancing and all. But when I went to shoot, over our phone conversations, the song became bigger and bigger and bigger. And then now there was one verse, and then there was another verse. While in Punjab, he was asking me, can you give me references? Can you give me references of how they dance, how they talk, what these vulgar lyrics are? So it was another interesting experience for me to tell him vulgar lyrics. So then it became bigger and bigger. And then I remember this distinctly. So there were many recordings here.
Right.
In the process, there were many recordings. Many people came, played, went, came, sang, went. All of that was there in some or the other layer of the machine, and also that man's mind, which he was putting together simultaneously. And it was like in my mind, but his mind was the accurate one. So he would sometimes send me something. So I said, okay, so I'm going to, now, I'll take one full day to shoot it. So he said, okay. So I said, I'll go here, I'll shoot this much. And it was almost as though we were doing it for our own fun.
Right.
Then finally I said, Acha, so we'll shoot the whole Mukhra and then this verse. So Rahman sir says, I remember this. He said, no, shoot the Antara also, na. I said, sir, I don't know whether in the film I will be able to keep it. No. You always say that, shoot it. And I said, oh, okay, he's saying, so let's try. I said, sir, Antara is not even ready. He said, no, I'll talk. And then I talked to Irshad, and then Irshad also was like activated. Everybody was activated on that. Finally, when we went to shoot, that's the longest song in the film. And thing with Rahman is, till the end, till the movie releases, he's still like doing something better, something different, something, and that different could need not necessarily a small one, it could be a large one.
Right.
He understands movie making very well. So he understands at what time I will need what, and if I'm given that, what I can make it. So we have that. I always feel that I have him watching my back when I'm shooting.
Nice. Now, you wrote English poetry when you were in school in Jamshedpur. What kind of poetry did you write? And I also want to ask, have you written lyrics for films?
No, this is a very embarrassing question. The first thing I ever did was write poetry in English. I've never written lyrics for films, nor do I want to, because Irshad has always been there. The the, but I'm interested in poetry.
Right, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
I enjoy that a lot. But it's like, you as a director do a smattering of many things.
Right.
Like I have to know a bit about cinematography or acting or everything. But there's always the possibility of hiring someone better than me at that job.
Right.
So therefore I don't write lyrics. I'm not interested or not
Right.
good at writing
Right.
lyrics.
Now, I've always had a question about your films, Imtiaz, which is that, see, it's very difficult to know whether the rhythms of the films come from your writing or from Aarti Bajaj's editing. There's always like a very give and take kind of thing happening there. Could you talk a little about that? Because I find that fascinating about your films. The way you overlap scenes and narratives and characters and in very unexpected ways,
So much of it comes from writing. But I feel that writing lays the foundation
Right.
to shooting, and then when you shoot, you change things. Again, the important thing, I guess, for me is that I'm the writer,
Right.
and the process of writing doesn't finish even with shooting. The
Yeah.
process of writing continues into editing.
Editing, yeah. Yeah.
So I feel that's what gives it the quality you're talking about. And Aarti, there are some very big strengths with her. One of them is understanding of character,
Right.
behavior. So she follows character very well.
Has she edited this one as well?
Yes,
Okay.
she's edited this one.
Yeah.
So and the other thing is music.
Yeah.
She gets that very well. And so it really helped that she's a Punjabi, so she understands language, so she knows every nuance.
Right.
And she selects the take. She works very hard. So what happens is that the process continues, and now I have a comfort with her. We have this process of she does her thing, then we do a thing together, then she does her thing again, then I do my thing again. So it's like that sometimes.
Right.
But and she also knows that anything can change
Right.
at any point of time. So whether I change it or she changes.
Right. Because that rhythm, I almost call it, like, of course, editing is about rhythm and writing is also about rhythm, but I almost want to invent a new word for the rhythm that I find in your films, because it's really different. It's just not scene after scene after scene. There's something that literally rolls into each other, like from one scene into another or something like that.
It's probably because I don't know screenwriting.
Okay.
And this is not a joke. It's like I have not studied it. I don't know what the structure should be. Sometimes I say those words which other writers say in order to sound intelligent, but I don't really know it. So I can only say something like this.
Right.
And I do know that the process doesn't end.
Right.
It can change at any point of time.
You're saying a lot of it is instinctive.
It is. Everything is instinctive.
Right.
Because I'm not an educated writer at all.
Right, right. Long time ago, you said that, because we've talked so much about love, a long time ago you said that you had the story of a man who discovers himself through his job of being a spy.
Oh, you remember that? Someday, my friend.
But I'm like, wouldn't that be a nice thing to do to destroy the image of, oh, Imtiaz Ali always makes only love stories? That kind of stuff. It's still there?
Yeah. And now that you've mentioned it, I'll keep it in mind, and hopefully someday we'll be getting on to making it. Yeah.
Is there a love story in that as well?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't tell me the man is in love with his job.
Not that. I mean, the reason that makes him so suitable and so good at being a spy is a statement in itself.
Okay.
It's almost as though he's better not being really himself.
Right.
Right. And there are so many things about spying which are very telling. For instance, most of spying is just waiting.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a very interesting space for a person to be. And then for him to have a longing for him to have best spice come from a very broken situation also.
Yeah.
So there are many things over there that can be got into if one looks at it in a perceptive or in a loving manner,
Right.
in a manner of understanding him rather than the mission.
Right.
Here the problem is going to be that whatever mission he is going to be on is going to be so magnificent that one would think that the beginning and end of it is the mission itself, but
Right.
it's not. I think it's him. The story inside him is going to be important here.
Nice. You've said that when a film is done, it's done. You don't get into the postmortem. You don't like, really want to analyze why it worked, why it didn't work, and so on and so forth. If so, how do you learn from a film?
Because the bold strokes of people's reactions, they come to you through your body. You don't have to go solicit information. You don't have to go elicit information. It just comes.
Right.
You will know that this film has had this reaction.
Right.
And then you don't have to sit and think about why. You will also feel that, oh, I do know. If you ask me about any film, I will have a feeling that, this was not so good.
Right.
And sometimes that reaction in retrospect is the same of me and the audience.
Yeah.
Say that, matlab, I agree.
Yeah.
I feel the audience is always right. Not because I'm not right, but because maybe I'll see that point after some time.
Okay.
And
yeah, and I
so
don't
you
want...
do learn, but I'm saying that one should not take it like an examination.
Right.
One should not do the analysis and cross analysis at that point of time and operation over operation and try to understand. That learning will come. It's like once in your life somebody says something important to you, you'll never forget.
Right.
In that way, what the audience will say, if it is important, will come to you. And your brain yourself will tell you what you did wrong or what you could do better to learn.
Right. Because I'll tell you one thing, and at the risk of... I am a fanboy, Imtiaz. I can't hide this because it's like there are very, very few filmmakers whose films really... I love the fact that you're so divorced from reality. I love the fact that you make films on a very elevated plane of feelings. So I always buy 2 tickets for your films. Like I see the first show and then I immediately go back and watch the second show. And the one film where I did not watch the second show was When Harry Met Sejal. And I was like, I don't know what happened. I was like, I watched the film and I was devastated. And I want you to comment on this because sometimes when we like a filmmaker too much, sometimes even when they make...
Feel angry at him.
Yeah, you
must have felt angry at him.
I didn't know how to... I'm like, I can't go back and watch this movie right now because I don't know how to process my feelings right now,
Nice. Yeah.
It's... Do you get this feeling sometimes?
Okay. Yeah.
About your filmmakers or people that you like?
Not so much anger because I'm a filmmaker myself. So I understand. But then, I do feel that. Yes. I feel that.
Right.
I understand what you're feeling.
Right. And finally, Imtiaz, you've been here for a long time and the world has changed, entertainment has changed, so much has changed. For instance, this film is coming on OTT, Netflix.
Right.
How has the Imtiaz who came in and made Socha Na Tha, how is that person different from the Imtiaz sitting in front of me today?
Well, I don't go back to think about how I was at a certain point of time, honestly. I'm just like finding myself just going forward into various places. People say that I haven't changed that much, but I'm sure that I have, because if I haven't, then it's like a disgrace. The life has been pointless. But there are things that get added on to you. And then there are unlearnings that you do and shed things also, by the way. You do change. But, things that you wear, then you wear them off and then new things come. I thought about this a lot when I was making Highway. One of the reasons of making Highway and making it so threadbare was the fact that now am I capable of making a movie, a good movie, and making the audience sit and watch it without the budget, without the privileges that I, as a successful director, am getting, which I couldn't get at that time when I made Socha Na Tha. And so I said, let me make a movie without a track trolley, without lights, without even a script at that time. And just
You went into
two
highway
people.
without a script?
Yeah,
Okay. Like an outline kind of thing.
outline.
Yeah.
So let me try to make it like this and see whether I can hold attention of the audience. And so I knew the story was good, and I knew the actors were good. And I thought, let's just go. And Anil Mehta and I had this thing that यार अब तो हम बहुत privileged director और cameraman हो गए. अब तो बड़े बड़े वो crane trolley क्या क्या आता है हमारे पास. उसके बगैर that guy just stepping out of film school or somewhere, will I be able to compete with him, or will I be able to compete with myself when I was just nothing and I just could make something on television and people were interested to watch?
Right.
So yeah, so that prompted the making of Highway. If you notice, it had a very small budget at that point
And
of
very
time.
minimalistic as well, like you
Yeah,
say.
completely.
Yeah.
There were no lights. We shot without lights. There were two sequences in which Anil lit up. There was no track trolley, you know,
Right.
except again for one sequence or two sequences where the track moves, and those were in Delhi, etc. So
But you still believe that romance is a very complicated thing. That hasn't changed.
I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it
But
is
that's been there right from
complicated.
Socha Na Tha.
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
an
I'm in love with
engagement.
you. I don't know if I'm in love with you. I don't know. I'm in love with her. I'm like,
It's a destination and a journey.
right.
It's a vehicle and what it carries. यानी कि वो जाम भी है और उसके अंदर की मदिरा भी है. You know, so it's not.
I think
so
say
easy
no
to
more. I think that's the perfect Imtiaz Ali
Quote to end.
quote to end this. So I think, thank you so much, Imtiaz. It's been
It's
a pleasure.
the wine and the wine cup.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.
GUVI, a vernacular edutech brand, skilling everyone everywhere.